Hello and welcome back to the Coder's Legacy channel. In this video, we'll explore how to create and customize tooltips in PyQt6. So what exactly is a tooltip? Well, it's basically a small piece of informational text that shows up whenever you hover over something. For example, if I just randomly hover over something like this, see, it shows this little tooltip over here. I'm not sure what that control plus stands for. It's maybe a shortcut, and that's a very common use of tooltips. A tooltip, when you hover over something, it'll commonly show you a shortcut. It'll show you a small definition of what you're looking at, or maybe it'll describe what to do or what something is doing. That's what tooltips are for. Okay, let me hover over this. That's another tooltip. Let me hover over this. See, that's another tooltip. It's telling us some information about the terminal. All right. So how do we create one in PyQt6? Well, most widgets in PyQt6, those that support tooltips, they have this method setToolTip. All right, and we can pass a string in here, and that's basically our tooltip. Like we have this button, which is a submit button. So let's assume that it's submitting a form. So we'll do this button submits a form. All right, now let me run this code, and I'm going to hover over this, and there you go, a tooltip. See, most widgets in PyQt6 support this tooltip method. Some don't, like the Q menu widget, the toolbar widget, those do not, because, it doesn't really make sense to have a tooltip for them. Now, obviously, we're not going to end the video here because there are many customizations that we need to explore. Let's get started with that. The first one is set tooltip duration. We can use this to control how long the tooltip will stay there, how long it's going to be shown for. By default, it's going to show up for 5 seconds. But if you only want it to display briefly, like 2 seconds, then you can do so. It's going to stay here for 2 seconds and then it'll disappear. Okay, so that's one customization. Other than this, we can change stuff like the color, the background, the font size, the font family, and then even use HTML within these tooltips. Let's begin. The first one that I want to show you is how to use QFont. All right, I'll create over here a font object using QFont. QFont can take something like Arial and then the font size. Then what we're going to do is QToolTip dot set font, and over here I'm going to pass in this font. Now what I just did was set this font object to a static method, set font, to a static method in the QToolTip class. Now what this has done is that every tooltip that we create from now on will have this font and this font size. Now if I run this code and hover, it shows this massive tooltip. And we can again try out different fonts, different font sizes, do whatever you want. But there's another way of customizing that I personally prefer. It's using the CSS Style Sheets. All right. Now, if you aren't familiar with how uh, PyQt6 works and how it styles widgets, let me tell you. Basically, it uses a system called QSS, which is basically inspired from CSS. Okay, and most of the properties are actually the same. It actually borrows it from an older version of CSS. Long story. I'll have a separate video, by the way, on style sheets in PyQt6 in the description below. You can go check it out over there. Very interesting topic. But for the context of this video, let me just tell you that these style sheets control things about the widgets, like they control the color, the sizes of the font, what font is being used. You can use these things to basically customize anything about a widget, even like the border or something like that. So what we're gonna do is do Q tooltip over here, and then use these brackets. And inside these brackets, any property that we define is only gonna affect the Q tooltip. Okay, the Q tooltip class. So over here, I'm going to say background color, and then black, then a semicolon. This is again the exact format that CSS follows. Then I'll do color and white. Background color is the background, color is the foreground. So let me execute this now. And if I hover, okay, that didn't go so well. Hold on. So I figured out the problem basically what we were seeing counted as the border and not as the background. And this is a bit complicated and kind of requires you to understand how it works in the background. And I'm not fully sure I'm right about it, so I won't really comment much. All I'm gonna say is that, uh, yeah, just go with the border, because sometimes what you see might actually be the border and not the background. So over here, I'm making the border black, solid, and 1 pixel wide, thick. So if I run this now and do this, we'll see that it's black. Okay. And by the way, if anyone does know something interesting about this, about the reason behind this and all that, then do let us know in the comment section below. All right. But other than this, you should just know that this is a really cool way that we can use to change things. We can change font size as well, 20px, or let's go with 18. All right. And now it's larger. Okay, that wasn't very obvious. Let's go with 22. See, there we go. And again, this is my personal favorite method. Now, there is just one last thing I want to explain, which I also think is really cool. Because, again, PyQt6 kind of uses a HTML and CSS system. So one very interesting thing that you can do over here is even use HTML within the tooltip. So you can make an h3 heading, and now we have this heading. That's not that cool though, not as much as this is. Let me show you. We can do something like this button, then bold a specific portion of this text. So now, see, that specific portion is now bolded. And then you can use italics, you can use other things, and I've seen people using CSS within the HTML over here. So that's also a very interesting way you can use it. You can go wild and try out whatever you want to with HTML over here. Chances are it's going to be pretty effective and pretty easy to use. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in a later video. Bye then.